You're here because you want to know why David's solar install is working at less than half efficiency. Buckle up for a wild roller coaster of a ride filled with Cowboy solar installers. Oh, oh my goodness, look at the flora and fauna growing in there. Yeehaw! Sound a little bit crackly. Just pure laziness. It just blows my mind. So here with Ryan from Velocity, one of our partners, our Artisan partners, because he made a shocking discovery when he came to this property. What did you find, Ryan?
Initially I came to have a look because the Zappi unfortunately has not been installed very well either, so we're going to replace that. That was the job that we've come out to do. However, noticed the battery, had a chat with the customer about it. After he told us who installed it, decided to investigate a bit further and sort of found the horrors that we're looking at now.
Okay, so let's look at this, right? So we've got the data sheet, 375 watt JA solar panels, so decent quality panels, and it does have an MCS certificate. On the system schematic, it says that it's a 5 kilowatt inverter.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's only a 3. So let's have a look. So we've got a 3 kilowatt label on the side. So we've nearly got 300% oversizing on this inverter, basically. Yeah. So for those of you who are not aware, solar inverters can usually take more PV power into them than they're rated at. Normally, the maximum oversizing you'd ever do is like 200%. So for a 3 kilowatt inverter, you might put 6 kilowatt of panels in a rare situation. But to put more than 8 kilowatt of panels on a 3 kilowatt inverter is just insane. In theory, it shouldn't even work. So David, tell us about the install. When did you have it done, first of all?
The install was initially in August 2022.
Okay, and what made you decide to go with this particular scheme?
We got a quote for that scheme and it was competitive, particularly because it included the scaffolding, and it was substantially cheaper than the independents that we'd gone to, a couple of them beforehand, so seemed good value for money.
And did the fact that it was a kind of a council-backed thing give you some kind of reassurance?
Yeah, because you get this impression that you're all in it together, so there's more bargaining power, you get a better result, and you should get better outcomes.
Now, without naming and shaming the actual installer, there was a certain scheme behind this, wasn't there?
Yeah, can you guess?
Does the first word begin with S and the second word begin with T?
You're spot on.
So if you haven't seen it already, we made a previous video about Solar Together, a council-backed bulk buying scheme for solar, which in theory sounds great. You and all your neighbours get solar installed at a rock bottom price with the power of mass market buying. However, it seems to result every single time in poor quality installs, and here's another example. Cheap deal, but you get what you pay for. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think might have happened here. Why have they only fitted a 3 kilowatt inverter when on the schematic it's down as a 5? But other than that, let's have a quick look and see what issues we can pick with this. So first of all, DC cables here, lashed in, not secured, no DC isolators, and no DC surge protection. Now in 2022, when it was installed, maybe DC surge protection wasn't an obligatory thing, so we'll forgive them for not putting DC surge in, but they should have at least put DC isolators in. Sound a little bit crackly when I wiggle those around. I don't want to touch them too much. So these batteries are 3 kilowatt hour battery modules. Now you said something about the customer having an issue with one of these. What happened?
Yeah, I believe one of them has already been replaced. When the system's been installed, they've only been set up to charge from the solar. So basically one of the modules was never being filled up.
Okay.
And it's seen such a low use, it's actually failed.
It's just died.
Because it's never been used, if you like.
For those of you who don't know, batteries need to have a certain state of charge maintained. If they get to complete zero, they will just die and you won't be able to resuscitate them. So has the system been working as you expected?
I did expect, I don't know why, I expected to save more. We do use a lot of electricity, so I did expect to save more than what we were doing, but we don't seem to. Essentially, the system's been fairly reliable, apart from the one of the batteries went. Once you got hold of the grow watt people, they were fine, they were great. But it was just a pain getting to them.
Did you try to contact the original installer and that was where...
I went through Solar Together. It wasn't until my car charger sort of packed up that I found out that things weren't as prescribed.
Yeah. Hi guys, I just want to take 10 seconds to tell you about something super exciting that I've been working on in the background. It's a software platform that I've personally co-founded. 𝐿𝐵𝐿 is designed to help your customers describe their job like a site survey, gathering all the information that you need in order to provide an accurate and full quote without having to do a site visit. Now we've just done a full user interface redesign. It's looking fresher than ever and I'd love to get your thoughts. There's a link below where you can sign up for a free trial and give it a go. Back to the video. Oh yeah, the fixings are not really done properly, so that's another thing. But what about the circuit that's feeding this? So we do have an AC isolator, which is good. We do have a generation meter, and we can see that the system has generated 12.7 megawatt hours since it was installed. So it has actually been working. That's good at least. Now it's an east-west system. So the installers used some kind of reasoning about it's an east-west system, so there's only going to be sun on half the panels at any one time, which means that it's okay to oversize it this way. Now, I'm not buying that because in the peak of summer, when the sun is overhead, you're going to get sun on both sides of the roof. Now, this solar inverter is designed to only take a maximum of a certain level of PV power, DC voltage and DC current. We'll do some tests in a moment and see what the DC voltage is currently and what the actual maximum that it's designed to take is, but it seems like this system was just never designed correctly from the start. On top of that, when you look at the way it's been wired into the distribution board here, there's definitely something fishy going on. So we've got a main switch in the, oh, that's a bit wobbly. Don't like that.
Probably because it's not in the right place.
Main switch in the middle of the board. Now that is just bizarre. In fact, let's whip the cover off. Let's do a neat or not neat on it. And let's see what is going on inside this consumer unit. Oh, yeah. Oh my goodness, look at that. Right, so they've taken the main tails into the top of the RCD. So they've used the RCD as a main switch effectively.
Look around this side of that neutral.
Oh my goodness, yeah, look at that. That neutral has been completely smooshed into the main RCD. Definitely don't think they've torqued those up properly. Then out of the RCD, you've got this MCB here, which is kind of loose. It's good that they've done an RCD to protect the hot tub, but then why on earth have they put a main switch in here, come into the top of the main switch, and then they've taken the neutrals for the two circuits out of the bottom of the main switch. They've run the EV charger on an MCB when it should have type A double pole RCD protection. You've got the solar circuit on a B32. Now it's a 3 kilowatt inverter, so why would they not put it on a 16 amp circuit breaker? It's just a very odd way of doing things. Now wait till you see how they've run the DC cables up to the roof. You know, who needs some proper fixings when you've got a nice bit of plastic gutter that you can cable tie to? So they've just run everything in a bit of flexible conduit, cable tied it to the side of the plastic gutter. Jobs are good, right? And then when they've tried to go through the soffit to get into the roof, they've tried to drill once and drilled in the wrong place. So then they've just drilled a second hole, but they'd never filled the first one. Stay classy, people. With regards to the actual install process, how did it go?
The install was fine, it was great, it was all done on the day it happened. The scaffolding was delivered the week before and assembled. The install was done in a day.
Everything was done in a day?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you know, there's no purpose-built trunking being made or anything. It was just
Yeah.
clipped to the wall for the cables. So the only complaint we had of the installation was the scaffolding was here for weeks and weeks. So A, you couldn't open the windows because the poles in front of the windows.
Mm-hmm.
And also there was a fire. My kids' bedrooms were in the back.
Yeah, they couldn't get out.
They couldn't get out, so my neighbour and I took it down because we were fed up with it.
Wow. And how long was that after the
That was about 2 or 3 weeks of constant nagging, saying, when are you going to take this down?
Wow. But they came and picked it up eventually once you'd
Yes.
taken it down yourself?
Yeah, I mean, they were happy. It's half their job done, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So while we've still got some sunlight, we're going to do some tests on these DC cables and just see what kind of voltage we're getting. So we're going to turn our DC isolator off in the inverter, turn the AC isolator off there. So the front's positives and the back are negatives by the look of it. Which one goes with which? We actually have no idea, no way of knowing because they've not labelled them properly, right? I'm going to do those first. plug her in and let's see what we've got. Right, so we've got 446 volts DC on that string. Check the other one. Okay, 460.
It's probably
So
the
they're
front,
similar.
isn't it?
So what we need to do is work out what the open circuit voltage would be.
Open circuit voltage 40.97.
Okay, so 12 times 40.97, 491 volts per string. And then on the inverter, okay.
I don't even think they've provided a data sheet
There's no
for the
data
inverter.
sheet.
That's the data sheet.
Right, that's all. Nice. So not only have they bodged the solar, but apparently the EV charger has not been installed very well either. So we're going to have a little look under the cover here on this �zappi and see what they've done here. Oh my goodness, look at the flora and fauna growing in there. In the electrical industry, there's this thing called IP rating. It stands for ingress protection, I believe. Basically, it means this thing should be sealed properly so that no water can get in and no insects and dust can get in. And straight away we find there is a small woodlouse farm within the �zappi. There is also a nice big spider's web inside. So at least 2 different species have made their home within this EV charger. And the woodlice seem to have made a little toilet on the back of the EV charger as well. I mean, I can't see any water in it, but...
This is where I think it failed.
Look at that, it's a bit corroded, I believe.
Well, it does still switch on, it just won't charge the car.
Okay. Was the car charger installed by them as well?
No. No, that was installed by a local supplier. He retired a long time ago.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I think the �zappi's been on the wall 5 years.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I'm amazed it's lasted this long, to be honest, with the amount of insects and stuff that are inside. There's a small menagerie going on in there.
It does work. If you plug a non... it just doesn't get on with my Tesla.
It doesn't like the Tesla, yeah. Well, I think the Tesla's probably detected some safety issues with the charger. That's the thing. All they would have needed to do is put a compression gland there. That's or what we call a stuffing gland, right? Just to seal it up. That's all that was needed. And it's just pure laziness. They've not even siliconed or sealed the hole through the wall where the cable comes. So they've just literally made no effort whatsoever to seal this up. I mean, what were they thinking? Like, it's obvious that this would happen if you don't seal up a charger properly. It just blows my mind. So you're all going to be changing this for a new one, aren't you?
Yeah, we're going to help the customer out and sort it out, get his car charging, because he's having to go down to the local supercharger every time he wants to get some charge in his car at the minute.
Yeah, good job he lives not too far away. So that's first priority. And then we need to make some recommendations about this solar system, really, don't we?
Yeah, I think we should get in contact with the installers and see if they want to rectify their mistakes.
Absolutely. This really does my nut in, because we get customers all the time saying, but Octopus has quoted me half the price of what you quoted, or, oh, I've got this solar together scheme that they can do it for like way less than what you've quoted for. And the trouble is, you know, if you're just looking at price, then of course there's going to be deals out there, like steal deals out there. But every single time that I've come across a cheap solar install, or what appears to be cheap, it's not actually cheap. It costs the customer more long term, because corners get cut, quality is lacking, and what it means is the system either doesn't perform as well as it should because it's been badly designed or badly installed, or it doesn't even work at all. And the customer ends up paying twice for something that they could have just done once, done properly, and it works. If you do it properly, you don't have to have all of this stress. But the thing that winds me up the most is that, how are you supposed to know as a customer? If you've got a scheme like Solar Together, which is backed by the local council, I completely understand customers. They would think, well, it's backed by the council, so it must be good. I can trust my local council. But in reality, what happens? It gets farmed out to a main contractor. They win the bid on the lowest price. Then they farm it out to multiple other subcontractors. And everyone's on a margin that is so thin that they have to cut corners. Otherwise, they'll just lose money. And this is the result. So now that Ryan has kind of made you aware of the situation, how do you feel?
A little let down, really. It's, well, you look at the documentation, the schematic says it's a 5 kilowatt inverter. Yeah. The certificate says 6.5, didn't it? Yeah. And I look at the inverter and I can see who's manufactured it, but it's only if you read the small print on the side with the serial number, it tells you it's a 3 kilowatt inverter. And so yeah, it's a bit of a pain that you go to all that expense and potentially I'm chucking away 50%, between 30 and 50% on a good day.
Yeah. Yeah, because essentially what happens, you get this nice solar curve and you've got 8 kilowatts of panels. You could be generating 8 kilowatts up here, but the solar inverter just chops it off at 3 and it'll just go and it just cuts off at that maximum 3 kilowatts, which means you're losing a huge amount of potential generation during those peak sun days.
Even if you went averaged it out, it's probably only going to produce 5 or 6, 6.5, about 80% efficiency, isn't it? So.
Yeah, but even that would be double what you're able to produce at the moment.
So, yeah, frustrated. I need to work out what we do next. It makes the business case better again, though, doesn't it? Getting more out of it, and I base the business case on what it could produce, not what it can produce and what it throws away.
Yeah, so you're now in a situation where you need to either try and get the original installer to upgrade the inverter and fix the other things that are not right, or you've got to suck it up yourself and absorb the cost yourself, which is not ideal because that's going to cost a fair amount and it's not your fault at the end of the day.
I'd say the inverter's going to be 4 figures anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, for a decent inverter anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bolts aren't even tight this side. They're like 10 mil off the wall.
It's a little bit loose. Now, one of the most worrying things about this is this. In my hand, I hold the customer installation handover pack, which contains an MCS certificate, a schematic, all the things you would kind of expect to receive if you're getting a decent quality solar install done. They've issued an MCS certificate, but the inverter size is completely wrong on the MCS certificate. So this company who's done this install are MCS approved, which should be a standard for quality. But clearly something's gone wrong here. Now, MCS are redesigning the system to focus more on installation and quality control, because in the past, as I've mentioned before on the channel, they're mainly been focused on the paperwork side of the business and not checking enough installs in the real world. Because if they'd have come out and checked this, there would have been major alarm bells ringing right from the start. But it just shows you how just having a stamp like MCS approved or NIC, EIC approved or whatever it might be doesn't mean a lot, unfortunately. If you're looking for a solar installer, you need to find one who's got a good reputation, who shares their work online to show the world. For example, we've looked up the Instagram page of this company and all of the images are just fake AI generated pictures of solar installs. There's no real work on their socials whatsoever. Whereas companies like Artisan and Velocity, we're proud of our work. We think it looks beautiful and we're willing to put it out on the internet for all the world to see. And that is a sign of a company that actually cares and wants to do a good job. So I'd always recommend that you look up the social pages of any installer that you're going to get to do work at your house. Now, there is something missing in here, which is a G99 application or even a G98 application. And what that is an obligatory piece of paperwork that needs to be done by your installer. For a 3.68 kilowatt inverter or less, a G98 application can be done. That means you can install the inverter and put the application in afterwards, just to let the DNO, distribution network operator, know that there is a solar install at this property. But if it's over 3.68 kilowatts, for example, the 5 kilowatt inverter that is mentioned on this schematic, that would need a G99 application, which is where the installer actually applies in advance for permission to connect the system to the grid. And the customer has no evidence of that paperwork having been done whatsoever. So as far as we're aware, the DNO might not even know that this solar install exists. Just digging into some of the terms and conditions of this particular company, and one of the things they say is, for 3-phase inverter, we can pay 90 quid for travel/setup time and 30 quid for swap SWOP inverter. Anyone who's willing to swap an inverter for 30 quid, in my mind, is not running a business that's going to last for very long. Now, can you guess in the comments how much the customer paid for this system? It's actually not as cheap as I thought it might have been. He's paid a total of £10,356 for this system, which, okay, that's probably, well, we would never fit a budget system like this anyway, so you can't really compare, but it's definitely less than what we would charge. But still, like, the scaffolding price was £380. Is it a cheap install? Probably. Were the results any good? Debatable. I'm really tempted to call out the name of this installer because it just drives me nuts. But we're going to try and help the customer to action it with the installer first and see if they can resolve it without us having to do that, because I don't like naming and shaming people, and I think everyone has bad days, although I have seen a lot of patterns in this industry with companies who do repeatedly bad installs. Well, we're here to help if we can support you with evidence of all of the footage that we've got to show your original installer, and anything else that we can do to, you know, advise you and give you any technical help. Obviously, we've done a bit of an audit today and we've confirmed that there's definitely things lacking with this install. So hopefully the original installer will come back and fix it all, but
hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, we await with bated breath to see what their response is.
Thank you.
But thanks for being willing to show us and tell us what's happened. We appreciate it.
Fine.
And hopefully it'll help other people to avoid having the same kind of issues.
Yes, that's the main thing, is, well, you don't want everyone else to go down the same boat, do you?
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, David.
Okay, thank you.
So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Am I going nuts, or is this just unacceptable? The solar industry is in a mess and it just keeps happening. Another thing that didn't get done properly on the original install was no bird protection. So the customer had pigeons hooing under the panels and had to get a separate contractor in to fit bird protection afterwards. There's just a ton of things that went wrong on this install and it really winds me up, but hopefully we can make change by making people aware, which is why I make videos like this. So if you have enjoyed this video and you've benefited from it, share it out with somebody. Let's spread the word so that we can get better solar installs done, raise the bar and kill the cowboys. And if you've enjoyed this video, why not watch this video up here where I discovered another shocking solar install.